Hello guys and girls, welcome back to the mission. My name is Fred Davis from Feathers and Fluoro, and this evening I'll be tying a baby bulkhead. This pattern is just a very simple bulkhead pattern, tied small, so it's easy to cast with a light rod. I use it quite a lot in Qatar to target queenfish, but I've used it to catch a variety of bream species. I'm 100% sure that'll work for leerie. Any fish that eats fish, basically, you can target with this. I use a variety of hooks. There's no specific pattern. The biggest thing is use the bulkhead way of tying. As you can see, we've got different versions. These are all different versions. You can mix your colors. You can play with the amount of flash, the amount of fiber. You can make it very sparse. You can thicken it up. You can cut away a lot of the bulkhead. You can keep the bulkhead quite thick, all depending on what you want to do. I usually use a intermediate line to fish this, get it down, to get it swimming a bit. A fast sinking line also works really well. We use it quite a bit amongst the coral bummies to target the sherry, which is a spangled emperor, and other reef species. I use 210 denier. I often use a red because I really like the trigger red in the background. It shows through when wet, which is really nice. The red's a great trigger color. This one I'll be tying with the white. You can use a hackle and flash, whatever flash you have. I usually use a lateral scale, a longer, slightly thicker, firmer flash, but this works really well. Saddle hackle, you're going to be using the short sections from the base of your saddle. Bucktail, whatever color, whatever length suits you. You can match your length to the hook size. You can match it to what you want to do. And an eye at the end. I will also sometimes wrap a small lead, 2 or 3 wraps of lead in the middle, especially if I'm going to be floating, using a floating line just to get a little bit of swim action, to help the fly dip a little bit, give it that wounded fish action. Okay, so tying with a white thread on this one, but you can actually match your thread to the colors of your body. So if you're going olive white, you could have a red background or an olive or something like that, just to that you play. So every color variation that you want can be done on this. Okay, and then take a little bit of flash, couple of strands, not too much. I'll just trap it. Let me bring it back. Okay, and I'll use a very sparse couple of, where's my bucktail? Here. Just a couple of pieces of bucktail, very thin. Form a bit of a tail. Cut this one off and down. To be honest, the tail, it's whatever size you want it to imitate. Depends on your hook gauge, depends on the size. So as you can see on this finished one, it's quite a long tail to the length of the shank of the hook. This one in proportion will be a little bit short proportion, but a longer tail. It's quite loose. There's no specific ratio to follow. And if you look here from behind, you see how they splay, but I'll talk about that now. So from your cape, I take from the shorter side, I'll select 4 similar length hackles. Don't have to be exact. and I trim them above the soft flue. Right. Then these are pretty straight hackles, but hackle have that natural tendency to splay in a certain direction, tend to put the shiny side on the outside. And I've built up a slight thread base here, so it's going to force these hackles out. So you trap them in, line them up, and tie them down. I'm not too fussy about how in line or how perfect they are, just as long as they're similar length. Okay, and then I'll put a couple more pieces of flash on either side of that, and that pretty much forms up the tail section of the fly. So I've stolen some of Dre's flash. I normally use a thicker lateral scale, which is a little bit easier to work with. It has a different flash profile, but this will work just as well, and any flash you want to use will work. Right, and in tying down, you're creating a little bit of a thread base, a thread dam, whatever you want to call it, and you just cut the flash just past the tail there. Bucktail, again, you don't need a fantastic bucktail like this. It actually works quite well with your standard bucktails, especially if you're tying smaller ones. You don't waste any material. So my first part of the wing, fairly sparse. Even picked up some of the brown material there, which is not a problem. So I pull out the short fibers and get rid of those. And as long as that is not longer than the tail, can be same length or slightly shorter, you hold that, trap it as you would with any. You just couple of soft ties, and then you tighten up. And then I'm going to flip the whole fly over, and then the same thing with some white on the bottom, same kind of distance. Okay, so after this I'll start the bulkhead and I'll start blending the colors. Right, I tend to leave these just like that. I don't cut them flush, I don't bend them, I don't do anything fancy here. Then you pick your color, it could be any color you want, whatever you are. Blue over white, purple over black, black over purple, whatever you want. So I've taken some, there's a very green olive, slightly more than you use on this one. And this is where I'll start the bulkhead as well. And again, your distance is slightly forward. And you're just ahead of, so to show you just ahead, I put one wrap ahead of that past dam. And I keep it on the top of the shank of the hook here. A couple of tight ones. Now, so you can, if you want, after everyone tie it off, you can put a touch of super glue, especially like they do with the bigger ones, but I just keep it all loose and easy and straightforward. Before I do the bulkhead, I'll now use the belly, which is going to be white again. I tend to tie the belly slightly sparser, just so that you got a better sink profile. A couple of soft ones. Right. And then you can use a tube here. I don't have something like a tube that helps you push it back. I generally just use my fingers at this point. split them nicely, push it back. Tube does help massively. So just grab it, grip it, and then I tie it back over it. There's a couple there you can get. And you can be as neat or unneat as you want at this point in terms of separating your colors or blending them. You can get a really nice blend between the top and bottom colors, or you can keep it quite crisp and straight. Right, so then I'll take another chunk, and again, like I tie very much for ease of tying and fishability rather than making it look super pretty for fishermen. And so some guys will start cutting their bulkheads now, which I don't do. I do that completely at the end. So push this down. Same thing. Couple of ones, tighten up. Flip it over. Couple of ones. What I will do is when the bottom here is longer, I will just give it a very rough cut to get it similar length. Okay, so then I've got that in. Sometimes just do a... Okay, and then it's the same idea. We bend it back and we get that bulkhead built up a bit. So a hollowed out pen here is a huge help. So a big pen or similar that's got the insides taken out, the back of that works really well to push your fibers back here. And then right. And this, I mean, at this point, you could put another one on. I'm not going to. I'm going to tie this off right here because I don't like fiddling with the last bit of the tie. Right, and the last thing I'll do is once it's tied off, is I'll pull this all back, and then I'll trim this to the size I want. Come on. And then I take quite a bit more off. So your fibers get wrapped all over the place here. Okay, so. Okay, and then same thing, I cut it. So if you have a look there, I'm cutting it below. So I'm building that bulkhead. You could use a razor blade if you want. Try and cut this quite flush. And leave a bit of a... And then, last step after this. So here we've got the dry shape, which is starting to look like your fish profile, which when wet folds down. If you want to get less of a build-up, you can comb this out, you can pull this out a bit, and you can actually just trim it a bit more. So the trimming process obviously shapes the head to what you want it. Then, to finish, I'm just going to steal two drays here. So eye and an eye. I would use super glue. You can use super glue, you can use epoxy, or you can use a tag eye if you want. And that's the fly. Right there. I would normally just put a drop of super glue in there. And then pinch it, and then there we go. And then I play with it a bit, play it out. And then just play with the bulkhead really. Okay, there we go. Then once it's wet, you get that nice little baitfish profile, pushes a lot of water. There we go. Cheers.
I'm on